be a protector of women and also to be a good child to her. On this Women's Day, I would like to thank each and every one mothers out there who are grooming their child, and each and every one who are out there yet to be mothers and going to groom their child. Happy Women's Day.
Women in leadership positions are extremely important for any organization as it brings different experiences and perspective in the decision-making process. The more diverse a workplace is, there will be better flow of different ideas which will eventually fuel the growth of the company. Also, an empowered woman is a great role model to all the younger women who are starting their career and will motivate them to think big and make real difference in the organization. At last, to all the women I want to say, the best is yet to be.
One of the women that inspires me the most is Mother Teresa. She devoted her life to selflessly help the poor. She touched lives of millions and inspired love and peace with her action. Mother Teresa is an inspiration because she did hard work with great love and helped people whom others neglected and ignored. She was an exceptional person, compassionate, determined, humble. These traits led her to become one of the most well-known contributors in history. One of my favorite quotes of hers is, "The best way to succeed in life is to act on the advice we give to others." To all women, I want to say, the best is yet to be. Thank you.
Hi, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Let me start off by quoting Michelle Obama when she says that no country can ever flourish if it stifles the potential of its women and deprives itself of the contribution of half of its citizens. I agree that in the recent years there has been a lot of movement towards empowering women, providing them with equal opportunities and inculcating that confidence in them to overcome the man-made barriers. But we have a long way to go. As a woman, I have worked hard to take charge of my life and to aim towards growing as an individual and building a future for myself. I believe that I need to create my very own identity in this world. I'm blessed to have a family, friends, and colleagues who are ever supportive and who have always encouraged me with my decisions and with my path. In the end, I would just like to leave with a message for all the lovely ladies out there. Start taking charge of your life. Make that decision you always wanted to. You are stronger than you think. Happy Women's Day. To all the women, I want to say the best is yet to be. Thank you.
Hello, Gavians. This is Carolyn Mystery. I'm talking to you from the West Coast in the United States. I work in talent acquisitions, and I've been with Gavs for almost 4 years, and I honestly wanted to say that it has been the best part of my career working with talent acquisitions. And today I want to take today to congratulate all women and to tell you all that you all inspire me and strengthen me every single day. And I hope I inspire and strengthen you as well. And to all women, I just want to let you know that the best is yet to be.
Hi everyone, this is Ashwin. Wishing you all a very happy Women's Day. Women are born leaders. Women lead in many different ways. We are the CEO of our own life. We have the power to stage it and compose it the way we want it to be. So, just wanted to share with you all, don't let anyone define you, you define yourself. So to all the women out there, our best is yet to be. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Having women in the leadership role is more important than ever. We need to learn from the careers of successful women today in the world. Of course, there would be a lot of barriers for women to come up, but we need to have the focus and the passion. So you are so lucky to live in the world where you have a lot of career choices. So to all the women, I want to say the best is yet to be. Thank you.
This International Women's Day, let's celebrate all the milestones that we have achieved towards gender equality. Let's also remember all those who have come before us and fought for us to give us the things that we take for granted today. I'm grateful for all the women in my life who have shaped me and nurtured me along the way. It is only because of them that I am where I am today. Wherever we may be, let's take charge and let's take the leadership of challenging stereotypes and breaking the biases whenever we find them.
Hi everyone, I'm Krati from the marketing team at GAPS. As a person, I've always felt strongly for the cause of women empowerment. I was lucky enough to come across some really strong women who empowered me immensely and gave me the courage to dream. My mother, my school principal, the women leaders in the companies I work for have acted as catalysts to inspire me to never stop achieving. As an impressionable young adult, I can vouch for the fact that it is very motivating for me to see flourishing careers for women as leaders. They create a huge sense of synergy and ambition. A big thank you to GAVS for this great forum where we inspire and get inspired. And to all the women, I like to wish a very happy Women's Day, and I'd like to tell them that the best is yet to be.
My name is Ishita Milli, my pronouns are she, her, and I am a Bengali American choreographer and the artistic director of Image Dance. Image is rooted in Indian, Western, classical, street, folk forms in combination with film, music, theater to tell globally relevant stories using artists of different perspectives. I identify as a millennial woman of color living through marginalized identities and privileged ones. And I found that this year, more than ever before, having to break the biases that are instilled upon me of which society views me through. My capabilities judged by how my voice sounds, what I look like, my skin color, what is perceived to define my identity when I'm so much more than that. And my work through Image and my artistry is an exemplification of that. The first piece you'll see is called Water, and it explores the duality in which water moves through power. It is a source of nurturing, it is a source of life, and in that sense, like water, women can be as soft as a stream or as thrashing as a tsunami. The last piece you'll see is called Three Sisters, and it follows a group of women leaders protecting their home, protecting their people, protecting their territory against an ominous threat. I hope you enjoy.
Swimming with the Pisces every night. Ain't really that deep, but he deep inside. Head like a Scorpio, shy like a Cancer. Water all of them planets. He said I wanna undress you, I wanna impress you, but I ain't gon' press you. I wanna undo the things I said before. Damn, I ain't been this way to years. Like you're thirsty, tie me up, pin me down, show no mercy. Nibble on it, kissing it like a Hershey. You could be the boss, so let you work me. I'll let you finish on a tatted session on me. Bust down on your future baby mommy. Fucking in the whip, top off. Do it quick, dick drop off. Guess your old bitches out talk. I ain't never seen it down south. Goddamn, I wanna undress you, I wanna impress you, but I ain't gon' stress you. I wanna undo the things I said before. Damn, I ain't been this wet in years. Ooh,
Good morning and good evening, everyone. And I do hope all of you can hear me. I'm Sumit Ganguly on behalf of GS Lab and GAVS Technologies. Right now, speaking with you from balmy Miami. We're here for a conference. First and foremost, wanted to welcome and thank the Consul General, Mr. Randhir Jaiswal. He was nice enough to be a key leader last year, and I received a call again this year, and he said we'd love to celebrate and create a platform for Women's Day. So, Consul General, thank you very much for the initiative. Wanted to thank Honorable Dr. Kiran Bedi, Ms. Shoma Sarkar, Julia Zhao, Sarah Diamond, and Bushra Galuccio. I, along with my leaders, have had the privilege of speaking with all of you while preparing for this. And I have to say our reactions were in awe, goosebumps. We were sentimental and emotional hearing your life stories and your backstories and the inflection points that defined you. So thank you. And it's a real honor that you all will share your life stories. And as we were discussing that, if you were to inspire 10, 20, 30, 42,000 people, I think we have achieved the celebration of Women's Day, which was started by the suffrage movement. I'll actually invite the Consul General to speak, but before that, I would largely like to quote Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the Nigerian poet and author. She actually became better known because Beyonce in her song Flawless speaks about it, that we should all be feminist. And I highly recommend all of you to, who's viewing, watch the YouTube video of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She was on TEDx Houston, and she talks about that we teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful, or else you will threaten the others. Because I'm female, expected to aspire for marriage, but that's not for the boys. We raise girls to look at each other as competition, not for jobs, but for attention of men. I think the ladies here, the women leaders here, have been successful and very successful. And they have actually been inspiration for all of us, men and women. So with that, may I invite the Consul General Randhir Jaiswal to inaugurate this session, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody here in New York in the United States. And good evening, those joining from India. A very warm greetings to all of you from the Indian Consulate in New York. Most respected Dr. Kiran Bedi, Madam, I must thank you once again for your warmth and generosity accorded to the presidential delegation when the President of India had visited Pondicherry and you were the Lieutenant Governor. I was part of the delegation. Thank you, ma'am, for your generosity once again. Madam Sarah Diamond, Madam Bushra Galuccio, Madam Soma Sarkar, and Madam Julia Zhou. Happy International Women's Day to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Sumit Ganguly and GAVS Technologies for partnering us in this celebration of International Women's Day. And as we celebrate International Women's Day, let us take out a minute to keep those who are facing the brunt of the war in our thoughts and prayers. And we hope, sincerely hope, that peace returns to their life and to their country soon. We have a very distinguished set of panelists. We have people and leaders from across the world. And therefore, the conversation that we are going to have will bring in a global perspective from each and every corner, each and every continent of the world. And I really look forward to the discussion on women issues and women empowerment, how it impacts people in different zones and different geographies and cultures. Our commitment as Government of India to women empowerment is an article of faith. India in the last several years has brought women to the center of its development pathway, be it Swachh Bharat, that is Clean India program, building toilets across the length and breadth of country, to Ujjwala scheme under which we are distributing clean cooking gas connections, or Mudra soft loan financing scheme. All these programs have benefited women in a large measure and is leading to transformational change at the grassroots level. Financial inclusion, other program under which we've opened 440 million bank accounts, and of the people who belong to the bottom of the pyramid, I must tell you 55% of the beneficiaries are women. Startup ecosystem, many of you here belong to the private sector, you would know how booming, how vibrant the Indian startup ecosystem is. We have upwards of 60,000 startups in India. Almost 50% of them have women as directors. And some 5 to 6 of the unicorns have women as co-founders or as founders. So all in all, it looks well for us. We have a long way to go, but we are making the right headway. Our Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao program, that is educate your daughter, save your daughter, has yielded very encouraging results. And just to let you know, in the state of Haryana, which is a laggard when it comes to women issues, etc., there in the last 5 years, we've seen spectacular results in sex ratio. From a low of 876, they have gone up to 926 in the 5 year period that I mentioned. We have some distance to go, but nonetheless, the results are extremely encouraging. We look forward to achieving Sustainable Development Goals 5, gender equality, sooner than later. We remain committed to women empowerment, and at the consulate, we have a very conducive environment, I must say, for women issues, for women empowerment, for gender equality. Upwards of 65% of our employees, we have a team of 70 plus people, almost 40 to between 45 to 50 people are women. And then the captain of the ship here, I have 2 daughters. So all that augurs very well for women issues and women empowerment. I grew up in Bihar in the 1980s. Bihar is in the northeast of India, in the east of India. Let me tell you, in the last 25, 30 years, I have seen a sea change as far as attitude of women go, attitude of men folk, women, and society in general go towards women. And that brings me to a personal story. I have my daughters who always complain about whenever there's a debate on gender issues or some incident happening around us, and they come very heavily on me. I try to explain them, telling them that, society will take time to evolve. We cannot deal with all the roadblocks in one go, but they hold their ground very, very hard. Yesterday, my friend who just came back from Bihar, because he's running a school, he stays here in New Jersey, he's running a school in his village. And he recounted me a story very similar to my experience with my daughters. There was an incident of sexual assault in the school with a boy, and they went and reported the case to the police. Once the case was reported to the police, the village elders got into action, and everybody came to the school authorities to say that the boy should be given one last chance. Well, the village people decided that there will be a meeting of the Gram Sabha, that is of all the village elders and people who matter. So they got together. The meeting was going as per the script. And then suddenly the whole lot of girls from the schools, they descended down and they became very vocal. They said, all that is fine, but why are you all the time telling us to mind ourselves? The onus lies on the men folk. So the story that I hear in my home here in New York is the same story which I hear, which I just told you, is happening in a village in Bihar. The point I'm making is that we are at that inflection point, even in traditional societies where women want to take things in their hand. It bodes well. It bodes well for women empowerment. It bodes well for us and for Sustainable Development Goal 5. I wish all of you a very happy International Women's Day, and I look forward to the fascinating discussion that we're going to have. Thank you very much.
Consul General, thank you. And of course, Dr. Abha Jaiswal, again, is a doctor and one of the more powerful members of your family, your wife. We've had the privilege of knowing her. So, and I know how important it is to kind of promote the International Women's Day. So once again, thank you. So without further ado, may I welcome the panel leaders, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Sarah Diamond, Bushra Galuchia, Shoma Sarkar, and Julia Zhao. We heard about Bihar, we heard about New York. What's interesting is, and this was, of course, serendipitously, but it happened that we have a British American, we have an Indian American, we have a Chinese American, and we have a Moroccan American, and an Indian talking about their experience as women leaders and who have been blessed with a fascinating career. So I would like to start with Dr. Kiran Bedi, who tutored me on my moderating skills. So I will try and be very precise and in all levity. We really loved the conversations. And as I was telling all of you women leaders, that we and my leaders have had the privilege of speaking to you while preparing for this. And our sentiments and reactions were a continuum of goosebumps to awe, to being inspired, to being emotionally connected. And I'm sure everyone would love to hear this from you. So Dr. Kiran Bedi, we'll start with you. In a quick 2-3 minutes, what defined Kiran Bedi, the young girl from Delhi, to what you have been? A little bit about your background and your life story, ma'am.
I'm delighted to hear the Consulate General of India, New York, Mr. Randeep Jaiswal. I'm so delighted. Sumit, I'm so happy that you got him to inaugurate this, because it's been so nice hearing him, because it's succinctly in few minutes he said it all, where India is moving towards. I do see India moving towards an evolution, but yet not a revolution. I think that's a big difference. But we've evolved. And I think I'm one of those success stories of India going back. The only difference is that I was one. I led the change. I led the evolution. Though in certain cases it's becoming a revolution, but not yet. But we are reaching there. And I would say from maybe another few years, we would reach that revolution. And when India becomes a revolution of another 400 to 500 million women, equally economically empowered, I think it will be a big strength to the world as a whole. Well, briefly, what I would say is, yes, it's a fact that I was the early bird. I was a pioneer when I joined the Indian Police Service in 1972. I became the first one in the country. And at that time, nobody was joined. Nobody had joined Indian Police Service prior to me, without my knowing also that I was going to be the first one. But no amount of persuasion dissuaded me, and I stuck to my guns. I did the equal training with the boys, a batch of 80 men, equal training. I wore the same uniform. I shared same accommodation. I did everything. I ran the same marathon. There were no relaxations for me. And for the reason, I told my ustads and trainers, I want to pass out with a message. Here is a woman equally qualified, equally trained, and now equally deserving for the positions equal to the men. That was my first message. But thereafter, yet, since there were still biases, there were many situations where I had to go back to say, I'm equally trained. Please believe me. I'm equally competent. Believe me, because the department took its time to understand. People accepted me and welcomed me when I took the courage, when I took the gauntlet, when I was being denied to lead the male parade on 26 January 1975. It's a male parade where for the first time I said, I'm entitled to lead as the senior most IPS young probationer, when I was denied and I led it. That meant every day marching 20 kilometers a day. And on that day, from Rashtrapati Bhavan till Red Fort, which was a 14 kilometers non-stop with a sword in hand, when I marched the ground, that was an inflection point for India as a whole. Because at that time, and by the way, United Nations declared it as the year of the woman. And it was all over the country. It was all over the world. For the first time, a woman anywhere in the world became a deputy commissioner of police, not by any privilege, but by merit. So this is my story. It's been a long, but luckily for me, Sumit, I came with a background of very strong sports, competitive sports. And I think I owe that kind of determination, the stamina, the willpower, the staying, the resilience, because of my competitive sports, which I had been prior to join the Indian Police Service. So I was a rare family in my country. Credit goes to my mother and father, who groomed me to be a champion in all respects. I was, in a way, I was becoming the 1%. I was doing that which only 1% do when 99% were only hoping to do but couldn't. And I continued to build myself as an asset. That was my training, continuing to reinvent myself and grow and become an asset for myself. So I'm a very great example of totally Indian democracy, totally Indian education, totally Indian upbringing, totally Indian nutrition, but something which became the first of its kind in the world. After that, of course, it's great history. You had more women, plenty of women in the Indian Police Service. Do you know some of them even retired as Director Generals of Police? When I was one, but thereafter, I resisted any positions of mine to control rooms. I kept coming back to say, look, I'm here to learn, not to sit in the control room. That's for the elders. So I've had my own way, but I got my things done. And I had very good leadership at times who recognized my worth and gave me the exposure. But I have used every single opportunity which came my way to do pride to my gender and to my service. Because I loved my service. I'm very proud of my Indian Police Service. It selects almost the best in the country. And number two, to prove that Indian woman was no less. It is that which brought me as a police advisor to the United Nations in peacekeeping operation, and yet another first in the world ever, when Kofi Annan appointed me as his civilian police advisor in peacekeeping operations. I again became the first woman in the world to do that. I owe this all to my service, all to my upbringing, all to my DNA and my genes, and I'm proud of it.
One point I want the people to mention to them. You had defined a motto that you will not be ordinary. Would you say that, please? I think it's important for everyone to hear that.
Yes, when I was growing up, that was ordinary was not my word. I was moving to be that 1% out of that 99% who were wanting to do but couldn't. But I was, my motto was, and I was explaining it to Sumit one day, I used to sign up as a student on my walls to be, and even as an autograph, as a national junior champion, to see be extraordinary in your life. At that time, I did not know Indian Police Service would make me extraordinary, but that was my life upbringing and seeing stay extraordinary. Otherwise, you are ordinary, and if an ordinary woman at that time, you would have seen me nowhere. But it's because that I strove to work towards being extraordinary, academics, competitive tennis and sports, that I reached this far. That's why I fulfilled a dream of a student life when I used to sign as an autograph, be extraordinary in your life. Thank you for reminding me.
No, absolutely. And again, you mentioned it. I have goosebumps, I have to tell you. And we really want, if at all, I was telling her that I couldn't get it on time, but I want to get a t-shirt going. I have spoken with Dr. Kiran Bedi. Thank you. Sarah, we had a fabulous conversation. You'll unmute yourself, Sarah, at New York. And it just kind of opened up where we started discussing a whole host of things. What I loved about you was you talking about how New York was liberating for you. And even as a lady who's been so privileged in Britain, there was always some amount of aspects that held you back. So it'd be nice for people to hear about Sarah Diamond, your life, and what you've come to be. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sumit. And, what an honor to be a part of this panel. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yes, I think the first point I wanted to actually start out with, because I think this is so important to so many women, is there was never a time in my life when I didn't expect to have a career, an enriching partnership, and a family. It never occurred to me I couldn't have it all. But also, I think that was the constant motivation that drove me to continuously prove I could do it all. And then, to build on your comments, when I look back over my career to date, I think there are actually three things that really have been the underpinnings. And I'm actually going to start with my education, which is something I am so passionate about for all women. For me, my education gave me the confidence and the capabilities to accomplish what I've been able to do. Interestingly, I went to an all-girls school in London. In fact, it was the first school to be founded in England to give girls the equivalent educational opportunities as boys. It was founded in 1850. And that gave me both obviously a very strong sense of history, but also a sense of if you worked hard enough at something and you were determined to achieve it, you could do so. And then I was definitely the beneficiary of great university education. And that exposed me to rigorous learning and, importantly, the skill of how to learn. Because one of the things we all know is learning never ends. And actually, a lot of the not-for-profit work that I do today focuses on young women's education. And then, to come back to the comments you remembered about my experiences in the US. So from an early age, and I can't really explain why, and I certainly couldn't have put into words then, I just had this instinctive interest and feeling for the US. In fact, I first came to the US as a high school student. I traveled around the whole country with just two other girls on Greyhound buses, something I would never let my daughter have done later on, I think. And then I came back to the US to do my postgraduate work. And then when I returned to London to start working, I worked for an American bank. It was called Chemical. It was subsequently acquired by JP Morgan Chase. Why? Because the English banks didn't offer me positions equivalent to what they were offering my male colleagues. And that was not acceptable to me. So later on, Chemical transferred me to New York. And that's when I really started to understand that what matters in the US and what I so value is it's all about what you know. It's not who you know, it's what you know. And I love that form of meritocracy. And frankly, I think it's been hugely important to my career. The third sort of underpinning, if you like, is nurturing talent. And I'll talk about that later, but I just find it hugely rewarding. There's nothing better than building and supporting great teams. They obviously create great networks for you. And I believe great teams are actually the key to everyone's success. So just briefly, if I think about my career to date, it's really 3 chapters, but I want to focus on the fact that it's never been just a continuum or linear. It's not a single trajectory. There have always been different priorities that have emerged at different times, whether to prioritize my husband's career for a while over mine, my children at times, and something we all face, taking care of elderly, ailing parents who were back in London and I was back in the US. So I always worked, but there were times when my career definitely wasn't moving as fast as other times. And I had to learn that that was okay. To me, we talk about work-life balance. I don't think there's such a thing. It's all about a juggling act. And it's realizing that much of the time you feel out of control and it's always imperfect, but you live with it. So chapter 1 was definitely getting started on my career at the bank in London. It allowed me to work with their branches in lots of different countries. And this ability to work globally has also been something I've hugely valued and learned from. Chapter 2 was definitely coming to the States, laying down my roots here. First for the bank, running their capital markets risk management practice in New York. Then I took a bit of a detour and ended up in management consulting, also in risk management for financial services at KPMG, became a partner there. loved that. And then, chapter 3 was very much, and has probably been undoubtedly the pinnacle of my career, my time at IBM. I was at IBM for almost 17 years. And the learnings I've had there have been amazing. Now, as an 18-year-old going to college and studying history, would I have thought I would have ended up in a technology firm? Never. And I always remember when my young son asked me why IBM would hire me, because, quote, "You know nothing about computers, Mom." It was certainly true then, but I hope not now. But the answer I gave him then is an answer I think that's carried through my career. And that's a strong conviction that technology that isn't grounded in business issues companies face cannot create the value required. So I understood banking, and that became the backbone of my contribution, bridging technology and business. At IBM, like everyone, I've had fantastic opportunities leading our capital markets, financial services, consulting business, doing strategy for a while when I had no prior strategy training. And then finally, leading our financial services sector. So all of the technology portfolio with all of the infrastructure, the services, the software, the security for all of our top clients, major global banking clients in the world. Fantastic opportunity. And again, one that I think built on the underpinnings of what I had been able to experience. So, if I look back, I was able to have it all. And the last comment I want to make to conclude, Sumit, is none of this would have happened without great sponsorship. Sponsorship from some of my teachers at school, one particularly at university, some amazing leaders at KPMG, and then finally some outstanding female leaders at IBM. And I want everybody to recognize that sponsorship is very different from mentoring and coaching. Mentoring and coaching are very important, but sponsors advocate for you. They speak up for you. And we all need not just one, but many. And it's to my sponsors that I owe a huge debt of gratitude. Thanks.
Fantastic, fantastic. Two things. Number one, I'd like people to know you went to Oxford and you did your MA in history in Oxford. When I grew up, that's something that I want to do. Really learn philosophy and history in Oxford or Cambridge. That would be something that one would love to do. And another very important point, which I want you to talk about, is you were the chairman of the Industry Academy in IBM. And more important, how you were able to change the diversity by the time you came out. So very briefly, if you could.
Very briefly, yes. So, so this was really a pivot point for IBM. IBM had always had a very renowned academy for technology. And our outgoing CEO, Sam Parmesano, and our incoming CEO, Ginny Rometty, decided rightly that we needed to step it up in industry. Why? Because, again, we couldn't solve our clients' problems without understanding their business as well as the technology. So the mandate was build an industry academy. I don't want it to be an academic ivory tower. I want it to bring together the best experiences, the best insights around industry that we have in the company and apply it to our portfolio to create value for our clients. And that's what I did. We started out as 32 members. It's now over 300. People have to apply every year. It's very, very competitive to get in. And that brings me to the diversity point, because right from the start, the mandate was we want diversity in two ways. We want gender diversity, and we want diversity from all the countries that we operate in. And recognize in IBM, almost a half of our employee base is in India. So frankly, I worked really, really hard to make sure that we met those targets. And why? Because having that diversity of thought and what was going on in different countries and different ways of thinking was going to be critical to our success. And my one lesson learned from that summit was never to accept what people presented. Many times I pushed back on the slates of candidates that we were presented and said, not good enough. Go look harder, go try harder. And to your point, the last year's intake, we had 50% female and 50% male. And almost half of the Academy of Technology also comes from what we think of as the growth markets versus the mature markets. Both facets are critically important to create value for business.
Very, very nice. Thank you. And talking about finance, Shoma Sarkar, I have got to know her and her family. If one is doing a balancing act, she has been doing that. A very supportive wife, a very successful financial executive, doting mother to some very successful kids, beautiful home, great chef, and I've had the privilege of having some of those delectable preparations. So Shoma, thank you for joining, and would love to have everyone hear about you, your journey from Lucknow, Delhi to New Jersey and henceforth.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sumit. Thank you for inviting me to be one of your panelists. Thank you, Honorable Consulate General of India, Mr. Jaiswal, for inaugurating this very special occasion as women. The world is celebrating women. And I also want to thank the GABS technology team and GS Lab for putting this event together. It has been a wonderful, wonderful and enlightening journey for me in this country. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about myself, where I started, how I started, and just give me 1 second. I'm having a little issue with my, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you and see you very well. So just go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you. So let me talk a little bit about my background. My journey so far, both professionally and personally, has been very, very enlightening. I consider myself very fortunate since I could overcome challenges to where I am today, 30 plus years after. So here's the little story. I came to this country as a newly married teenage bride, and soon thereafter became a young mom of a little baby boy. Everything was going fine. I still felt like I was missing something in my life. So one day I picked up the phone and called my friend and said, you know, I need to get out of the house. I need to do something for myself. She said to me, I work for a bank. Why don't you look for a banking job just to get your foot in the door? Well, now mind you, I have never worked in India or here. I applied at few places, but either did not get a call for the interview or got a rejection letter. I was not going to give up or get discouraged. And I till today follow that. Well, finally got an interview at a commercial bank. I went in with a very positive mindset and was not afraid to be myself. And as you know, Sumit, I'm still not afraid to be myself. I followed my gut. In my mind, I said, I am not going to fail because all I needed was one chance. Once the interview was done, I felt good, I felt connected and engaged. So at the end of the interview, very politely, but confidently requested the branch manager to please give me a chance to show that I can do this job. Well, what do you think happened? I got the job as a part-time employee, making minimum hourly wage, working 2 to 6 p.m. Yay! I conquered something. Well, on the way, I did have a few challenges, but nothing was going to stop me. There is a solution to every challenge, and I preach that to my team, my kids, sometimes try to do that to my husband too. And you cannot give up is what I kept on reminding myself. You know, I used to walk 7 to 8 blocks daily in the scorching sun. It was July, carrying a change of clothes with me since I would sweat walking this distance. We had one car in the family. My husband worked a distance away, so obviously he had no choice than to take the car to work. That was the start of my career in the United States of America in 1983. Since then, I have worked for mega banks and now working at a large progressive credit union in New Jersey. I started my career as an entry-level position and worked my way up to the executive level. It will not be fair if I really don't talk about this country and my parents a little bit. This amazing country inspired me first, then my mentors and the leaders that helped me along the way. You know, I am passionately curious to learn, and I use this phrase quite a bit. Listen, and this was right from my childhood. Always wanted to study and work with public. Serving the public, working with public gave me such a great gratification. At the same time, wanted to grow personally and professionally. One of the strengths that I had when I came to this country was the fluency in English. And also remembered my father always said, education is one, everything else is a zero. If you do not have one in front of the zeros have no value. That taught us never forget who you are and your heritage. I try my best to remind me of these values even today. I want to talk a little bit about my mom. My mom came from a royalty background. Her ancestors were from Noshipur Rajbari, West Bengal, India. I don't remember much, but I did visit Noshipur Rajbari, the palace, when I was very young. Even though mom had royal blood in her, she raised us to be humble human beings, ready to face challenge and the reality in life. I can't thank enough my mentors, the leaders, my peers, my friends and family for where I am today. So this is really my background, how I started as a young bride. Thanks.
And on the way, you've been to Wharton, Johns Hopkins, and been to Stanford, and have taken some fascinating courses there. And that continues to be something that you've been very invested in.
That is correct, Sumit. I went to Wharton, did some executive management courses there. I went to Darden Business School. I went to Cornell. I don't stop studying. There is no end to learning. I learn from everyone. I'm even learning from my little grandkids who teach me how to pronounce certain names of dinosaurs. So learning just does not end for me.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
From that, can we go to Morocco? For us, Morocco, Bushra was Casablanca and played against Sam and Humphrey Bogart. And you kind of personify Morocco for us. And I've again had the occasion for almost 3-4 years talking to you. And really, one of the key things that I have been always attracted to is your international focus and linking it all together and kind of putting it all out there, your ethnicity and taking on becoming one of the senior technology leaders in New York. So Bushra Galucha.
Thanks, Sumit. This is a little bit, it's an honor, of course, to be part of this great panel of these amazing women. It's going to be a hard act to follow, but I'll try as the Moroccan in here. So it's been a journey. When Dr. Kiran spoke about how physical and, you know, she was an athlete and the competition helped her, I compared that to that. I completely agree that competition built my character, but my competition was a little bit on a different style. It was with my siblings. So growing up in a large family with 10 siblings, God bless my parents, and being the youngest one and the girl. So you have two things in a very, I would describe it, conservative culture was challenging. So to have your voice heard was a challenge, to separate yourself a little bit from your brothers. And, you know, you come from school and you and your brother, and then your mom turns around. I'm sure a lot of girls here can associate, and your mom will tell you, go get your brother something to eat, and well, it's not the same thing. So I grew up to be a little bit the rebel of the family. That, at least that's how they saw me. I didn't know that back then. I just thought I was speaking up for myself. And that, now looking back, it built really the character, the Bushra who's right now in front of everybody. I had to almost work to get things and work hard. Not to use the word fight, but that was really the struggle of how can I get the best seat, in front of TV among all the big men right there. So that was the upbringing. From there, you get to, okay, in my culture, a girl is, as of course we were, I was lucky that my father really supported girls' education. But then after that, it becomes, after you graduate, you become, so, okay, when you're going to get married, and that whole conversation. I'm sure the Indian culture, that's how, when Sumit talks about how internationally I fit in, I feel when I go to India, and I have so many Indian friends, and my whole team is probably 99% Indian colleagues, I really connect a lot with the Indian culture. It's very close to a Moroccan culture, a little bit far from the Casablanca movie that Sumit described, but it is very close to an Indian culture. So a girl's supposed to get education, great, but the biggest accomplishment is when you get married, and who you're going to get married, and so forth. So of course, being the rebel and that I was, that was not for me. And I started getting into, I couldn't hide anymore of why am I not getting married. So my oldest sister, who's really been a role model for me, she turned around one day while I was really complaining again, and she said to me, Bushra, stop complaining and do something about it. This is Morocco. It is what it is. So what are you going to do about it? And I said to myself, okay, now I have to think of what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. And then I decided that summer of August 98 to go abroad. And I had two girlfriends. One was in New York and one was in Montreal, Canada. And so I was really excited about the America, but I didn't speak English. So in Morocco, we grew up bilingual, Arabic and French. And I really did not. The little English I took, probably I learned from Michael Jackson songs back in the 80s. So I was the whole time, I am going to go, I'm safe with my friend, but probably I will end up in Montreal, Canada, which they speak French. So my 2 weeks in New York, and I'm trying to make it short a little bit because I like to talk. I came to New York, and I remember one of my aha moment that I knew I wanted to stay in this great country. I was in Bryant Park, sitting having a lunch sandwich, and there's this American girl, I think, and she was bare feet. Back in the 90s, we didn't have iPhones and MP3, so she was wearing her Walkman, listening to music, bare feet on the grass, and she was dancing and moving around. And for a while, I was watching her, really kind of amazed that she could do that in public. Then the second realization, I looked around and I was the only one watching her. Everybody couldn't care less. It just, like the bulb went ahead and said, aha, this is what you're looking for, Bushra. You want freedom. You want to be in public, do whatever, and nobody would pay attention to that. Let alone going on the street because you're wearing a short skirt, a pants, whatever it is. So I said to myself, okay, I want to stay here, but now how I'm going to tell mom? So that was my whole thing. I had to come up. So I stayed for my master's because my parents always supported education. And I said, hello, mom and dad, I'm going to stay for another 2 years in the US. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Now, the challenge always was the language. And I would go, it was scary. One of the best quotes that I live with, and I've talked to Sumit about it before in the GABS team. It's a French Renaissance philosopher who says, and I like to use the word she, it's a Women's Day, she who fears, she will suffer, but already suffers because she fears. So my mantra, my whole life has been, when I'm scared to death about something, I go for it. like I could tell you lately, I'm scared to death of skiing. And I'm coming from Morocco where we have, sand dunes and all, and we do that type of skiing. And I go to the mountain and I had no clue how to ski. And I go down and I felt, and I got bruises, but I was so thrilled at the end that I conquered a fear of mine. So I scuba dive. I have asthma, and I couldn't imagine myself under the water. And I said, I am going to do that. And apparently it's good for asthma people. So I go by conquering fears. And the great thing in America, what I learned and how I've started going back to my careers is that America is a land of the impossible and of freedom, of course, but also, of course, the opportunities. I was given the opportunity when some of my great women here have said that what matters, I think that Suma, you talked about that, is that you said that women in America, it goes by merit, or maybe it's Sarah, so I don't remember, I'm sorry. But it's not who you are. It's not the way you speak English and how many broken words you say. It's really if you work hard and you have something to give, that helps you grow. And that was exactly my mantra. I remember one day I called my dad. For the first time, I got a promotion to a manager, and I was so proud of it. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I was promoted to manager. And he was very proud of me. And he said to me, what does that mean? And I said, well, I actually right now, I think I am getting to a place where if I stayed home, it would have been very hard for me to get to that position because of all the male layers of management, unless I knew somebody. In this country, it's not who I know, it's exactly what I can do. So that's been my mantra. I started very small, even though I was already working back home as a computer engineer. I had to restart from the beginning here, which was great. I did learn English. My English is still not perfect, but one thing I tell the story when I was in India, I had few kids when I visited some schools ask me about how about, English, what did you do about it? And I would say, I was very intimidated at the beginning, but in New York, there is this great, openness and help and support that every American person I met, they always gave me the same response, which is, oh, your English is great. And it wasn't great, by the way. It's great, but I wish I spoke French like you, or I wish I spoke Moroccan like you. And that gave me more and encouraged me to speak up more, because languages are practice. If you don't speak, if you don't talk, you're not going to get better. And I'm still getting corrected by my son, Soma, same as you, in public. Before it was my husband.
How many people now out of India work with you in your team? Around 1,000?
It's over 100, yeah, a lot, with different partners. Great as Gavs, we have a lot, and I made a lot of great friendship back home in India. Absolutely.
Thanks, Bushra. Now, talking about fearless, I have, it's not that we're saving the best for the last, but Julia, we've had some fascinating experiences and discussion, and talking about taking fear head on. Dr. Bedi, she is a girl after your heart. She should tell you the things that she's been doing. So Julia Zhao is a technology leader. She was in China, studied there, was in Japan, and then in the US. And she'll let you know some very fascinating things that defines Julia. Julia, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Sumit, for inviting me for this event. And this has been a wonderful experience listening to all the stories of all these amazing women. It's amazing. This is a great day for international women everywhere in the globe. And born in China, I was looking back, significant, interesting journey that I have been coming so far, especially coming to America. A lot of interesting stories. I grew up by a little ocean town northeast of China called Dalian, and I basically, at the time, there's no internet, there's not even TV, so I grew up by the ocean, go to ocean in the morning, come back home at night when the moon comes out. And for my mom, it's a great babysitting service. So I just having a blast with all my friends there, and play with the fish, free dive, basically grew into this little mermaid and growing up. So technology wise, my mom and dad, they're professors. So my mom and dad is very much into knowledge is power, and telling me how you can gain a lot of, reading a lot of books, gain a lot of knowledge, and how you can change the world with knowledge that you have. So I grow into this, significantly reading a lot of books, and basically equip myself with a lot of knowledge, and getting into high school and university. And I feel like the more you learn, the more you know that you don't know. And basically because of that, and learning become my habit. But out of learning outside of work, I always telling my friends, think of this movie, this Superman, right? So this Clark, go to work with the glasses and go to, corporate America. And then when there's a disaster happen, take off the suit and there is a Superman suit inside and fly out of the window. So it kind of describe my personality. So I'm, grow bigger and bigger in a technology world, and currently in charge of my technology division in community behavioral health as a chief information officer. But outside world, I will say I'm a very completely different person. So a group of friends are different. Many people are different. So before I, become a diver, and I was an ocean girl, grew up. But later I grow this tremendous love and passion for the mountain. So I started climbing out of a very interesting incident. I go with a group of hikers going to top of a mountain, not too high, local mountain, about 3,000 meters, 10,000 feet also. And I used to think hiking is easy, but when I get up there, it is difficult. I cannot breathe. I was huffing and puffing. So I feel like, this actually can be a challenge because, to me, I think a lot of people talk about competitiveness. I think we all have this competitiveness inside of us. We want to be the best. And for me, I also want to say, what Sarah mentioned, priority can take you to places, and also self-discipline. And since I grew like really in love with the mountain, and I try to go higher and taller, and to go higher and taller, I have to gain skills. So along the way, I learned how to rock climb, how to ice climb. And so the mountain just get bigger and bigger and taller. So I climb basically everywhere in South America, Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, some of the crazy mountain with ice and street drop 2,000 feet on both sides with a sheer ridge on top of the summit. Those are, in Peru, and it was, amazing. And talking about fear, I keep telling myself, especially when I was young, Julia, you are fearless. You should be, nothing should stop you. You are unstoppable. Everything comes along the way. You just go conquer it. You try your best. You have self-discipline. You work hard, you persevere, and then eventually you work towards your goal and you will succeed. So that has been my mantra through my career, through all my life. And, so this is an opportunity for me to tell my story. And 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, I come to this country in New York and go to college over there, get my second master's degree. And I work 2-3 jobs to just get by. Things very expensive. Coming here by myself, especially away from parents, away from family, can be very daunting. But I, get my degree, graduated, and 30 years after I come back to East Coast again. And I actually spent most of my time, almost all my time in West Coast. But 30 years after, I come back to East Coast again, being the Chief Information Officer for Community Behavioral Health. I think that's American success story.
Of course. No, thank you. Julia, of course, she is planning to scale the Everest summit sometime in April. And some of you should hear her personal growth, Consul General and Honorable Dr. Bedi. Fascinating story about how in 13 hours they have to scale. What is the total distance in 13 hours, Julia?
Yes. So Everest is my second 8,000 meter peak. I climbed my first 8,000 meter peak 2 years ago, 2019, the mountain called Manaslu. The height is 8,163 meters. It's an experience that I will never forget. The time that on summit day, we spent almost 20 hours, 19 hours, and it was a long day. So for me, it was absolutely a challenging, a difficult journey on that day. So the day we started from Camp 3, on the time when we spent the whole overnight in Camp 2, I didn't have a good sleep, probably only have 2 to 3 hours sleep because of the storm, because of wind, because of a lot of different factors, high altitude. So with merely 4 hours sleep, we heading towards Camp 3. I took a nap. And on the Camp 3, we have not many time to spend because we're not going to spend night. The storm is coming in. So Sherpa team said we have to go with the summit push tonight. And I said from Camp 3, skip Camp 4, directly go to summit with 4 hours sleep. And I think I can do it. So without any hesitation, we start on the previous day a little after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we reach Camp 4. From Camp 3, reach Camp 4 at midnight. So the midnight on almost 7,300 meters, I think, is very, very cold, minus 30, 40 degrees at the time. It's not only cold, but also very dark. And it's a storm is coming in, of course, and the wind and everything else is in combination. So the whole team, we are in high spirit. And we said, summit is not too far, right? So we're already Camp 4. So summit, it's a long summit. So from midnight, we arrive summit around 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's over 13 hours from Camp 3 to the summit. Yeah, so that's basically a long, hard day. On some of the times, you just feel the courage is one step ahead, basically
nice.
one
Thank
step
you.
at a time. Yes.
So Julia, we'll be chronicling this GS Lab and GAVS. Thank you. I'll bring back Dr. Bedi. I know, Dr. Bedi, you have to address United Nations. Wanted you, ma'am, to talk about two things. Number one, some learning experience and about the book that you've written, which kind of culminates into everything that your experiences are, and some messages for the viewers, Dr. Bedi.
How many minutes do you give me?
You take your minutes, 5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. If you're talking about this book, can I get a good copy of this?
Yes, please.
Sure.
The fearless governance.
Yeah. This is a book we're talking about. This one. This is, by the way, Sumit, my 4th book.
Yes.
I've written about my prison assignment, when I ran the prison. It's called It's Always Possible. The policing work is all documented in the biography, which became little autographical later in I Dare. And my NGO work is documented in a book called What Went Wrong. I have a very important habit of documenting. I love keeping my records. This book is a project of very good documentation of all the work which happened. This is full of pictures, and it's called the QR code. And it's also got the snippets and the videos, which I used to do by my iPhone of all my rounds, my meetings, sometimes my presentations. I used to keep a record. See, there's some cartoons as well of mine.
Yes.
So
yes,
there are
yes.
news clippings also, judgments. So this is that kind of a documentation. If you see certain graphics, cartoons, everything is a part of this documentation. And it's literally case studies. It's literally case studies of every challenge that I came across. How did I resolve as a leader, as an administrator of Puducherry? Now, when I went there, what I saw was something which was horrifying in the sense that, you see, Pondicherry is a very beautiful part of India. It's a union territory, which was earlier with the French, got liberated later, but post-independence took its time to come out back to Indian Union. But being in the side part of the country doesn't get much of central media attention. So I think by and large, these systems there were getting away with very little done. And it was festering corruption, to my mind, as I saw, because this is, I'm not saying it, it's now documented here. So when I went as an administrator, the choice I had was whether to be a part of the system or change the system. Because I saw corruption, I saw organized crime in a big way, which was rowdyism, with land grabbing. I saw medical admissions mafia, right? So medical admissions, there were medical college students who were being charged exorbitant fees, nobody questioning them. The land grabbing, because of French citizens, they would go away to France because they were Indian French, and senior citizens, the land being grabbed away by vested land interests, and some of them were even politically conspiring. So, and mass corruption, because and no open system, hardly any documentation, no grievance redressal system, not much of websites being updated. This was my beautiful part of India. Now the question is, how did I get to know? Because I opened up the systems. Raj Nivas was open to listening to people. That was very, very vital state. Otherwise, I would have not, because I was North Indian. I did not know Tamil at all. And I was in the deep south of India. So therefore, in that deep south, I had no North Indian connection, neither culturally nor language-wise. English was a connection with the bureaucracy, because the wherever comes. So this was the kind of environment I was in. And when my prime minister appointed me, he clearly said, that's in the first chapter of the book, where he said, Kiran, go there and take care of the finance. So the prime minister was probably aware that all was not right with the finances situation of the union territory. So knowing this, I started to search out, where is the evidence of this prime minister's statement? And I found that the finances were being misappropriated and not being properly edited and not being socially audited. So you can imagine the Herculean task I had. What do I do with what I've inherited? And it was also not clean. It was not a lot of schemes of Government of India, which our Consulate General has mentioned. By the way, these are centrally sponsored schemes. They are centrally funded schemes to the states and the union territories. And I found all the money which was being given by the Government of India, most with solid intentions to drive the change, they were not being used. The money was just lying idle or not was being properly accounted for. This was my inheritance. When I saw that, question is, do I ask for a white paper? Do I start complaining? Do I write a complaint to the Government of India? I reported to the president as a lieutenant governor. Do I report to the president? There was no time to report. So I decided I'll not get into the complaint mode or report mode. I'll get into the correction mode. I'll start transforming and modifying. But how do I do it? I have to be the example. So I started with that concept by getting people over to my mind, to my side, as saying I gave them a management mantra called trust, empowerment, and alignment. So once I would settle the relationship of trusting, empowering, and accountability, opened up my systems to grievance redressal, WhatsApp, using technology. Computers were not being well utilized. There was no WhatsApp technology being used. Departments were working in silos. So this book is exactly that. Why is it called fearless governance? Because I had to take on the whole system, particularly the political fiefdom of that time. And they were very well entrenched. They were elected representatives. They were elected representatives. I was an appointee. They were elected. So but the powers as the lieutenant governor were with me. Financial powers, appointment powers, service matters, policy matters had to be approved by the lieutenant governor. So what I started to do was to use my powers correctly and effectively. And then it came as a confrontation because it hurt the pockets, the deep pockets, which were used to diverting these resources. And that's when fearlessness came, because for every initiative, any innovation in leadership or management that I took as an administrator, I was literally challenged in the courts of law. And I had to hire the best of the experienced lawyers to defend and establish whether I was following the law. In the end of the day, every time they took me to the courts, it took its time, it was painful, but meanwhile, I did not stop changing, I did not stop transforming, but I challenged and every time went back to the court. The court gave us brilliant judgment. And actually, the legacy of my lieutenant governor is I've sealed the fates of these politicians to abuse the law anymore. And now there is these judgments which have to be followed. So each chapter is talking about these issues.
Right. Two things which I want you to mention, which we found fascinating. You talked about women leadership and how to prioritize energy. I love that point about intergenerational living. I think that's a great message if you could leave with people. I loved some of those points that you talked about.
Well, I
focusing on energy.
Are you talking about when I was growing up as a police officer?
That's right. No, everything. Even now, you believe success as a woman leader is how you prioritize your energy and where you want to focus it on.
Well, that's correct. I think as a lieutenant governor with same 24 hours served to everybody, I actually truly generated energy and I managed my energy. I generated energy by morning nutrition, which was yoga, my fitness, living in the nature, very, very carefully, and also meditating to seek more thinking, clarity. But thereafter, it was all about managing my energy in such a way that I have more in the end rather than, but also impact others, because I had to lead the way, because this was like a sleeping organization. They were getting away because they were all isolated. So I had to drive the energy. I had to generate energy, manage my energy, and drive the energy amongst the bureaucracy. So that, I think where being a woman was a doubly advantaged, because I found that as a woman, I was trusted much more. I was respected much more. I think people were more accessible for me and also wished me well. So I think there was greater collaboration. There was more cooperation and also very silent support. They were afraid to speak up. But I think as a woman, I enjoyed the love and respect of the people also, because I had opened up the systems and was regularly removing the grievances as a woman. I think that's where they found a big difference between earlier male leadership and the female leadership now. Why? A female leadership offering more stamina, more endurance, more visibility, more work in the field, right? Even bicycles. I was as a lieutenant governor, I was biking the streets to connect with the common man. And when I was biking the streets, there was National Cadet Corps students who would join me and other volunteers. So I was connecting and also raising volunteerism. Right. One of the major things which I did was to raise the water level of Puducherry when it was declining. And there was no money in the budget. When I brought corporate houses together to come together to desilt all the cluttered tanks, irrigation canals, wells, etc. Once they did that, the rainwater went back. They paid the contractors directly, these donors. So this is how I brought a model of collaboration and visibility. I think the secret of my success was by being in the field on a daily basis as a female leader who was visible, who was connecting, who was interacting and co-opting people. I think gradually that is what evolved. And there's this fearless governance is actually a model that's what Indira Nui released this book, and she's the one who said it's a total brilliant blueprint of good governance, leadership practices which cut across private and public sector. This was something, a very rare statement coming from nobody other than Indira Nui herself. So this is what, in fact, if you get to read this, you will see what a difference being a woman became a double advantage to me. And I actually used it to my advantage, because children warmed up to me, women warmed up to me, elders warmed up to me, youth warmed up to me. And I think the amount of base, the impact was that by the time I left, the political classes, which had been the architects of this system, all lost their deposits. They all lost the elections. That means people silently voted them out for what they did to me.
No, thank you so very much, Dr. Bedi. I know you've got to address United Nations. We took a little time, but we'd love for you to be with us as long as you can. I want to go back to Julia in a minute. Julia, message for the people that, of course, I was drawing some correlation. I saw education, fearlessness, taking a chance, mindfulness being some of them. But if you could, across the board, and I'll end it with Sarah last, but if you could give the viewers some key message as a woman leader, something very personal that you think is been a contributor to your success.
I think I like the dance at the very beginning, the water dance. So Bruce Lee said, you should be like water. You put water in a cup, it becomes a shape of cup. Put water in a tablespoon, it becomes a shape of tablespoon. So the water with the time can cut through mountains, can form big landscapes. So be like water, my friend. So that's what Bruce Lee said. And I think that's the resiliency that basically the whole message is telling people. And I will say resiliency for women is extremely important. We deal with what comes and we use our persistence, perseverance, hard work, prioritization, and at the same time, self-discipline, and nothing cannot be achieved.
Very nice. Thank you, Julia, sincerely. And Julia, we'll be chronicling your scaling of the summit. I mean, in us, you have big fans. Thank you. We'd go with Bushra. A minute on your message, please.
I love what Julia just mentioned. To top it, I would say conquer your fear and go back to whenever somebody tells you you can't do it. That's being, I don't know, because I'm stubborn. Well, I'll be the first one to do that. If nobody did it before, I do that at work. When somebody tells me this was never done before, it helps. It works at work, it works at home, it works in the community. Encourage. It's wonderful to see this resiliency, how amazing these women are, but it's also heartening that it takes that much effort still for women. As far as we've come, it's still taking these strong women and resilient women and character to get just to a normal to where men are. So I'm looking forward, hopefully our children, our daughters, the next generation don't have to be extraordinary just to get to what they need. So that's a new message. And it makes all of us invest in the girls. So I support back home whenever I can. I was inspired by a great show on Netflix, which is Daughters of Destiny, by an Indian American man who went back, and actually he believes in the power of educating a girl. So he takes girls, about 24, every year, and he gives them education in a very poor neighborhood in Bangalore. I try to do a little bit of it. I don't have as much financial means as he does back home in Morocco, in some rural areas.
What would be your message be to your
Educate
viewers?
your girls.
Okay.
Educate your girls and empower your girls. They'll be the leaders of other generations.
Thank you, Bushra. Shoma.
Sure. Thank you, Sumit. Absolutely. So the first thing I would say is be honest with yourself. Embrace the change. It's very important not to be in a silo. Try to work as a team. Take every challenge as an opportunity Communication is always a key, no matter where you go. Another area that I focus myself and has helped me is focus on how you can educate yourself more outside of what you do day to day and your work ethics. So I just want to leave it with that.
Very nice. Thank you, Shoma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Diamond, what a last name.
I think building on a lot of what my colleagues have said here. So 3 lessons learned for me, and then 2 insights about women's leadership.
Yes.
So the lessons learned are: 1, be authentic, build on your core strengths. Don't worry about things that aren't your core strengths, because there are plenty of other people who are great at them. And, you know, when I look back on my career, Sumit, and I think about what are my core strengths, I'd think of them as analytical capabilities, communication, my ability to work across cultures, a strong EQ. And see, I didn't mention computer science or technology or banking or finance. I mentioned things that are ways of thinking, seeing things, and ways of behaving, because I'm a strong believer, as I think everybody said, that the content can be acquired as and when you need it. So that's number 1. Number 2, and everybody said this too, don't be afraid to take on challenges or risks. When IBM's former CEO and chairman, Ginny Rometty, became the first woman CEO of IBM, which was a huge deal, she said, growth and comfort don't coexist. So more than often, you will not feel ready for your next step. And that's a good thing, because I think, as everybody said, that means you're going to lean in and learn how to do it. And there are a lot of examples in my career where I didn't feel ready, but I trusted somebody who was asking me to take on, and I knew I'd have ways to combat my fear. Because to me, my courage came from my belief in the mandate I was being given, and my knowledge that I could learn what I needed to learn. And also, and something I think women do well, I've never been afraid to ask for help, because to me, asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And then the last lesson I learned for me, and again, it's picking up on a lot of the themes of what has already been discussed, is pace yourself. And to me, actually, that's been the hardest. You know, our careers are not sprints, they're marathons. Everybody's used this word resilience. We need endless resilience. And most importantly, you don't have to do everything and prove everything at once. I've got a great, very quick insight on that. After my daughter was born, I had what was really an epiphany for me, because at the time I was working as management consulting, I was traveling all the time, and I was doing volunteer work at a local hospital, which I loved, but I was exhausted. And then I suddenly realized, you know what? The volunteer work can wait. I don't need to do everything now. I've got decades ahead of me, and my daughter was only going to be young once. So pacing yourself, I think, is incredibly important as well. And then just 2 final thoughts, because I've thought a lot about, you know, women and their leadership style. And I do believe it's different. And I think it's a huge strength, especially in the era in which we live. So I've come to believe that in the business world, women have unique and very effective ways of leading. So women, they often think of leadership being in service of something, in service of your clients, in service of your team, in service of your colleagues, in service of your company's strategy and mission. And I think that works very well for women. It's not about you. It's about being a standout in another way, and then having strong convictions and acting on them. And the last comment is this. So it is important to lead in this unique and I think sort of very calibrated way. Don't just support and enable or focus on operational excellence. Don't just become the fix-it person. Often, I think that's how women's careers start out. We are relied upon to get things done. But at the same time, it's really important that we are strategic, that we are outcomes versus task or activities oriented. And what's very important too is that we all recognize that to do this, we need to create space. We need to create space to think, whether it's through meditation, yoga, whatever it is. We need space to think. And we have to be deliberate about doing this. Because, as I started out by saying, I think life is a constant juggling act. And it's knowing how to create that space to think strategically and act strategically, as well as to be fantastic at the execution.
Perfect, perfect. And there's a book there. I seriously think there's a book there in what you're saying. And really speaking, the nuanced difference between mentor and sponsor, I haven't heard someone put it across so succinctly. Sincere thanks. I'd like to invite Rachna Sirohi. Rachna is one of our HR leaders. She comes to us from GS Lab, and she would like to express thanks to all of you on behalf of GS Lab and GABS. Rachna.
Thank you so much, Sumit. And thank you, everybody on the panel. It's been an absolute honor and pride to listen to all of you today. We are extremely grateful for all of you to bring your personal stories and informing us about your own challenges, how you came over them. Because oftentimes, we don't realize when people reach at a level that you are, that there are human sides to everybody. And I'm so grateful to all of you that you brought about these elements, whether it is Dr. Vedi talking about that 1% extraordinary leadership or pride that you wanted, or Julia talking about being fearless, being unstoppable, because that's something, we can't really associate somebody who is looking at an accomplishment like yours being, still trying to overcome her fears. Importance of education that Sarah, you brought in. It was amazing to know all of these aspects. Bushra, of course, about your journey of being and establishing yourself, overcoming all sorts of biases throughout. It's an absolute pleasure to know all of you and the leadership lessons that you brought about to us. We at GS Lab and GABS strongly advocate equal opportunity for all, and I'm sure all of us have these key takeaways from this discussion today, and this will strengthen our belief in this philosophy even more. So thank you so much, and I would also like to thank Consul General Mr. Randir Jaiswal for bringing this forum together, giving us this opportunity to learn so much from these leading ladies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll end it with, again, Ishita Milli's one more composition celebrating women. And I'd like to thank again Consul General, Sarah Diamond, Shoma, Julia and Bushra, and all the people who've been involved with this, Sangeeta, Bindu, Anand, Raja, and all of you, Kshitij and Rachna, thank you. So would you all join me in listening to the last song? But before that, Consul General, any last words, sir?
Well, thank you very much. It has been a fascinating discussion, and I'm only going to look back to the videos and see what more I can take out of it. So fantastic, and hope to meet many of you soon.
And we'll do that, sir. And most of them are in New York, New Jersey, except for Julia. Julia is also Philadelphia, so we'll do that. Thank you again,
so
sir.
much. Thank you, everyone, and thanks from GAVS and GS Lab. All of us are privileged, and our women are truly inspired by your talk, Power Pack talk. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and bye now, and happy Women's Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for joining in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.